Hi, welcome to Revise the Right Way. In this video, I'd like to focus on an area that my grade 12 students wanted me to look at, links between The Great Gatsby and In Cold Blood for their upcoming Paper 2 exam. This may, however, be useful if you're studying either text, and if you'd like to see a video on a specific text, then use the hashtag Revise the Right Way or comment below. So first of all, the action in both texts takes place after a significant world war, either in post-World War I for Great Gatsby or after World War II in Cold Blood. In addition, taking place during the Cold War helps to reinforce how In Cold Blood explores the distrust and turning fear inwardly by the residents of Holcomb. Holcomb sits in an area of Kansas referred to as out there, and we know the barbed language of the locals reinforces how they rejected Capote's initial inquiries. Much of this may have been to do with the idea that his sexuality and his intentions contrasted with their idea of the American man represented in their society through Herb Clutter. Ironically, of course, Herb's family is painted as being less than the sum of their idyllic parts. Herb sleeps in another room to his wife Bonnie. Both the Clutter children are portrayed as having hidden vices, such as through the smell of smoke, and one of the characteristics that Truman praises about Nancy relates partially to her boyish haircut. It's clear that he's trying somewhat to undermine the positive traits of this family and suggest that under the surface they're not as perfect as they seem. And this might sound harsh when discussing the deaths of real people, but it does have parallels to the hidden vices of some of the characters in The Great Gatsby. Jay, Jordan, and Wolfsheim are all presented as having committed crimes, even though our narrator, Nick Carraway, is reluctant to condone them for it. The central idea is that under the surface, many of these characters have negative traits which are only exposed by the investigative journalism of Capote, or Harper Lee, depending on who you believe, and the all-seeing eyes of Dr. T.J. Ecclesburg. Many of these characters try to make up new identities, reinvention either by moving to a new area, such as the Ashida family in Cold Blood, or Nick Carraway himself moving to and eventually away from New York, or through the construction of a new persona. Jay is pretty successful at this, but even in Cold Blood we can see links to this with Perry, who is both trying to run away from himself and his current situation due to his interest in travelling, and his ornate, intricately designed tattoos that hint at the idea of the tortured artist trapped in an ultimately fatal situation. The locations of each text do deserve further exploration, and the simplest way of looking at them is that they are in either direct opposition to progress, industry, and a more progressive America, such as the isolated Holcomb with one road in and out, and a train that doesn't want to stop there, or it supports the idea of industry and hard work, even if it doesn't always reward it, such as with the residents of the Valley of Ashes. The topographical features of each landscape are interesting here, as the idea of a valley where nobody is able to escape from due to the inevitable slide down into the dust and dirt of this existence compares with the flat plains of Holcomb. Even with a seemingly even playing field, there's still the sense that the rich and powerful exert their influence on society in Holcomb. The terror that came in the night and turns a society in on itself still exists in The Great Gatsby, but here much of the damage is done through a society that uses alcohol, lies, and corruption in a way that eventually destroys lives, much like the shotgun blasts of Dick and Perry. Another recurring theme in these texts is the symbolic power of the number two. Two characters brought together, two locations opposed to one another, and like Jordan states, it takes two to make an accident. There are parallels between this statement, particularly in relation to how Tom and Daisy inadvertently conspire to condemn Myrtle, Jay, and George to their deaths, but also to how Dick and Perry have an almost symbiotic relationship, whereby either through bravado, jealousy, or mutual self-loathing, they push each other on to commit a series of atrocities, each leading the other to new heights of depravity. The endings of both texts are also interesting, and in The Great Gatsby, some people may overlook the prophetic nature of the ending of the text. Gatsby's mansion, which is described as a huge, incoherent failure of a house, features on the white steps an obscene word scrawled by some boy, which is erased by Caraway, but there's a suggestion that this run-down house is almost a premonition of the future stock market crash in 1929 and the eventual decline of this way of life in the face of the unrelenting social and economic struggles facing the less fortunate members of society. Holcomb is at a similar point, whereby an old way of life is destroyed when, afterward, the townspeople, theretofore sufficiently unfearful of each other to seldom trouble to lock their doors, found fantasy recreating them over and again, these sombre explosions that stimulated fires of mistrust in the glare of which many old neighbours viewed each other strangely and as strangers. The weakness of their beliefs, their way of life, and the fragility of life are all similar to how almost no one attends Gatsby's funeral for fear of the contagious, destructive influence of these external factors. So there we go. There's a number of different ideas there, and I really hope that that helps with your revision and with your eventual paper 2 response. Remember that I'm also going to produce a video comparing Great Gatsby with Persepolis, so let me know how this helps and I will consider your ideas for the next video as well. Thanks for watching and listening. Please share, like and comment if you've enjoyed the video. Thank you.